First, you're the one making fun of the minivan, but soon you're behind the wheel. Comedian and author Craig Playstead joins us with a look at Dad's love-hate relationship with the minivan. And I know there are a lot of people right now shaking their heads saying, I will never own a minivan. You were one of those people once, right?
I was one of those people. In my 20s, my dad drove a minivan for business. I mocked him almost on a daily basis. You know, the whole thing, doing 40 miles an hour in the left-hand lane with your hazards on, to the soccer mom jokes, everything. So I would never have thought of driving a minivan.
And then all of a sudden, they sort of became cool for Craig, which they may soon for your husband. But what changed for you when you thought, gosh, I think I need to break down and get a minivan?
Kid number one.
Really?
I mean, you cannot really understand what kids do to your life until you actually have one.
Okay, so you couldn't just get by with the regular SUV. Had to be the minivan.
It's more of a mind shift. You're shifting your you get to a point where you're like, I have no money, no sleep, you know, everything's sideways. How do I make my life easier?
And the minivan did it.
And the minivan did it.
So how did you get started? Did you go out and start shopping for one? Did you kind of test drive one to see if you really liked it, if you could make that transition? What'd you do?
I borrowed my dad's minivan on like a little road trip to a wedding, and had my friend in there, and my wife and my daughter, and I all of a sudden started realizing, you know, this thing is not too bad.
Driving down the road, I kind of like this.
Absolutely. I got my hair metal CD, is right there. I've got my coffee. I've got, and it really drives so much nicer than an SUV. I was shocked. So,
and you say it's a mind shift because there's this image attached to being in a minivan for some people, right?
Absolutely. And that minivan that I mocked became mine after number 2 was born. So that's the amazing thing about it. The image thing is amazing because, and I find this is the funny thing, is I find that it usually comes from the wives. The wives are the ones that don't want to drive the minivan.
I have found that as well with friends of mine.
Absolutely.
The women want to have nothing to do with them.
And it's, the men are like, whatever. And so what ends up happening is you've got this image thing, and you think to yourself, really, I've got 3 kids. I've gained an extra 15 pounds. I'm exhausted. I'm screaming at them. I've got 9 diaper bags. I've got, the strained peas stain on my shirt. That may have something to do with the image a little bit more than you pouring out of a $60,000 SUV.
But I bet you've made some great memories in your minivan.
Absolutely.
With road trips. Can you share something with us?
We've had some great family memories, but I'll tell you the best part probably was I piled in all my college buddies into the minivan.
Nice.
We drove to the alma mater for a football game, and I'll tell you, we pulled into that school, and 7 guys in their mid-30s roll out, and you can see all the college kids going, that's the saddest thing I can ever see. And you're thinking to yourself, give it 10 years. In 10 years, this will be you pulling out of the minivan.
Well, what can you tell guys who are thinking, maybe their wives are trying to convince them. Of course, the wife wants them to drive it. But what can you tell guys, about opening up their mind and making that shift into getting something like that? Because you've really enjoyed it.
Well, I think it comes down to really is what is your life like right now? Your life is not like it was when you were single.
Right.
I worried about my image in my 20s and late 20s, and what I drove, where I worked, everything really mattered. Once you have kids, you should be more worried about your image as a parent. And you should be you should be looking at it, how do I make this a little bit easier? Because it is tough having kids. It's a blast at times, but the other times it's really tough.
But according to Craig, the minivan can help make it a little more fun and a little easier.
Absolutely, you bet.
Well, I know that the car manufacturers who make minivans thank you, and so do I. It's been nice to have you here. I don't know. I'm single, but I'm thinking maybe I should get a minivan now. There's a lot you can pile into it. I've got dogs.
You can move. You can almost fit everything you own into a minivan.
You can live in it if you have to. Thanks, Craig. And you can find more funny life stories with Craig on his website. We'll put a link to it on our site, bettertv.com.